Welcome to the Bend Don't Break podcast. We are powered by The Source, Bend's locally owned media company and weekly newspaper. This podcast is our eddy in the rushing waters of local journalism. We are glad that you're taking some of your time to listen to us chat with the people who shape our local community. Support us through our member program at bensource.com.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, RE/MAX Key Properties, a family-owned full-service real estate brokerage specializing in residential, luxury, commercial, new construction, and ranch and land properties. Their new state-of-the-art facility at 42 Greenwood Avenue is a modern, collaborative space and the new home of the Bend Don't Break podcast recording studio.
This is Aaron Switzer, producer of this podcast and publisher of The Source Weekly. Today, we have our sponsor supporting us, Crux Fermentations Project, with their, I hope I'm saying this right, bachi Japanese style lager is the flavor of the day. And got to thank them for helping us make this possible. I am sitting here today with Crista Munro. She is the executive director of the Sisters Folk Festival. Is that the proper title? Executive director?
Executive director of SFF Presents.
Okay, SFF Presents.
Which we can talk about.
We'll dive more into everything that you do. Moved to Sisters in 2019 to take over the Sisters Folk Festival, Inc., and bring 24 years of music event production, marketing, and nonprofit administrative experience to the position. In 2024, she had a career milestone of producing 50 festivals, many of which were in her previous home of Pagosa Springs, Colorado. Also, many of them here in our community. Kristen enjoys living in Central Oregon, a beautiful and friendly place that provides a perfect home base for attending concerts and music festivals, camping, hiking, traveling, and playing the snow with her husband, Rob, and their 2 dogs.
Yes.
Did we get that right?
That sounds great. Thanks, Aaron.
Well, thanks for being here. I wanted to sit down with you at this time of year just because I know as we get closer, there's probably no way we were going to be able to pull you in out of the chaos of all the stuff you're producing.
It's crazy how busy we are really year round.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is like we're already gearing up for Big Pondaroo, and we have an art making session this afternoon to make our little Pondaroos. And
Before we dive into all the things that Sisters Folk Festival Inc. does, SFF, let's talk a little bit about yourself. How did you, first of all, end up in Pagosa, California? Were you born there? Colorado, sorry.
No, I was not. I grew up actually back east in Pennsylvania, and kind of hit the road with my partner back then, and we were in search of, I had this kind of cool job, actually. If any of you, you or people watching, remember your first few weeks at college and the big poster sale would roll into the Student Union building, and you'd go in and buy all the art prints, posters for your walls. Yep. That was me. Yeah.
That's probly more my era than Megan's. Did you have that, poster salespeople at your school?
I can't say I remember.
Yeah. It was a thing. I mean,
it was. Oh, I remember, because everybody, and then afterwards, after you would blow out of town, then everybody would have these posters in their dorm rooms.
And Bob Marley.
Right.
Just pretty iconic.
Yeah.
And, a lot of Salvador Dali art prints.
Right.
But anyway, we were traveling around the entire country, being sent from school to school.
That's cool.
And kind of fell in love with the Durango area, fell in love with the Eugene area, and it eventually picked Durango. Yeah. And Pagosa Springs is pretty close to Durango.
What a great way to get a college tour.
Yeah.
Find out which ones were functioning well and which ones weren't functioning well. You got to probably interact with administration and go, not here. Beautiful.
It was actually after college.
Oh, okay.
So it was my first job. So it was a great way to tour the country. Be paid for it. Also learned that I didn't want to travel for a living and live out of a hotel room and eat microwaved meals every day to save your per diem.
That's a hard sales gig.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we had one day in Urbana, and it was like a $20,000 sales day.
Wow.
Selling back then. This was, in the 90s. And that was selling posters that went for, $10 to $20.
Oh my gosh.
Crazy.
And would it just be, and it was just probably, how many people did you have at the table? So,
There were
selling
two of us.
two of you selling $20,000 worth of posters.
Yeah. And we had to restock on the fly, like they shipped stuff to us. And it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how I ended up in Colorado.
Yeah.
And then how I eventually ended up in Eugene, which then landed me in systems.
Well, it gave you a firsthand look at the rock and roll lifestyle.
Exactly. Yeah, and I realized really quickly I wanted to be on the admin side of that.
Be on the other side making the posters rather than selling them.
Yeah.
And so you rooted down in Pagosa and was running festivals and doing events the first thing you did when you arrived? Or how did you move into that field?
Totally by accident. My first job was working for a printer there in town because I had also worked at Kinko's when I was in college and right after college. And so I did desktop publishing. You're also too young to remember that.
Yeah.
And so did that and then worked at a ski shop. When you lived in a little college, in a mountain town right out of college, you worked 3 or 4 jobs to make ends meet. So that was pretty great. And then while I decided to strike out on my own and started a little coffee shop or a copy shop with graphic design. And then I started a couple of publications. So I had a free twice a month publication that I was doing and a dining guide and an adventure guide that came
What
out
was the
twice a year.
publication like? Was it news or culture? Or?
It was more culture. It was called Connections. And it was designed to sort of bring the community together.
Oh, great.
And point out Pagosa Springs, like Sisters, just had incredible people that moved there because they love the nature, the mountains.
Right.
So we had, artists and just a pretty high caliber of people, and I just would interview, get to know them, and so that was fun. And then one day Dan, who was he's my late husband, and that's who I started festivals with in Colorado, walked into my copy shop to make copies of a bluegrass flyer. He had a bluegrass radio show on the local station, and we just sort of were talking, and we didn't know each other very well, and said, wouldn't it be great if this town had a music festival? And 2 years later, we had a festival, and right after the first festival, we got married, and
So it must have been a successful festival if it led to
I think we were just crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was... we did. If we would have known what we were getting into, I really think we would have done it.
Yeah, I say the same thing, but there you are.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was pretty great, and there was no money in it. It was all volunteer for the first few years, and so here we were still working our 3 jobs apiece or whatever, and keeping all of that going. But eventually it turned around, and we made it work, and. Then he got ill, and that's when after a few years, we ended up having to move down out of the altitude, and we kept the festivals going in Colorado, but from Eugene.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can sympathize with how difficult that would be.
Yeah. It was really difficult, and we pretty much had to leave Colorado because there isn't anywhere in Colorado that's under 5,000 feet.
Right.
It's just all very high there.
Yeah.
It's dry. So, and then eventually that didn't work either. And
How long did you run the festival before you moved to Eugene?
let's see, that was 2011. The first festival was in 1996.
Oh, okay.
So pretty long.
Yeah.
And then we did them for 8 years from Eugene.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 a year, and an adult bluegrass camp and a kids bluegrass camp.
Okay. Well, what a great background to come into Sisters Folk Festival with. It was pretty much you just changed the brand.
Kind of. And I knew Brad from going to conferences, and so because of the timing of our festival in Colorado, the genre that we were booking there and things that were happening in Sisters, we oftentimes would book a lot of the same artists.
Sure.
It was a nice routing that lined up for them, and so it was a pretty natural fit. But I had never been to the Sisters Folk Festival before I started working.
Decided to run it.
Again, I had been. I'm not sure I would have.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stages. It's a lot of moving pieces
Yeah.
and parts, but
Right.
it's a phenomenal event.
Was was the festival that you were running, was it one main stage kind of event? Yeah. I mean, the multi-venue, I can attest to, it's a whole heap of challenges, the coordination, the shuttling the artists, the, different acoustics, you got different sound people. It's a lot.
Bleed between venues.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a lot. And I don't know if you work with, you do work with private businesses for venues, but we're a combination of
Some, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I find that to be very challenging. I won't single any particular business out, but some are they're private, so they're not beholden like a regular venue. So some are Johnny on the spot, get the information, and the other challenge is some pass it off to somebody who doesn't know, and then why are these people showing up today for an event? So it's a mixed bag. But for a promoter, boy, I think the pinnacle of challenge for sure.
Yeah. And we're really lucky to have, really long time partners for venues, like the Belfry and Open Door, and, even the depot has changed hands, but the new owners were, we're keeping it going. We want being a venue. So
yeah, that's great.
it is great.
Well, you have, I love having you on because I'm such a fan of the event. It's I think Sisters Folk Festival, for people who do events, you have a special affection for Sisters Folk Festival because one, it's difficult to pull off, but when it's pulled off really well, it's such a great thing for community because you are in all these different parts. You are in with private and venues and everybody's pulling together, and you feel that in Sisters. It's it's a sisters event, and people take ownership of it in all these different ways, and you love that. They're promoting it individually. It's, for a marketing person like Megan over here, she can appreciate, like all the subs and all these people, like this symphony of like, hey, come and see so-and-so is very hard to replicate.
There's a lot of pride around it.
Yeah.
And that has been super sweet for me to see. How it's ownership. It's like this is our community on display, and we're welcoming so many people in. Not just from Bend, which we do get a lot of people from Bend. That's great, but from Portland and beyond.
Right.
So it's pretty amazing. We get people that come out from the East Coast, people that come from England.
Yeah, wow,
wonderful.
That's great. And I don't want to. I could spend all this time talking about the festival itself, but it's become a lot more. I think the interesting thing to me about the folk festival is always the seminar aspect of it. That I love going to the ones where the artists are on the stage. I can't remember the particular night I had at the Belfry, but 4 of them. And the cool thing is they've spent a week together, so they're all really casual with each other and jokey, and they've been teaching, so they've got stories to tell about their kids, or the adults that they had in the program, and it's just a different experience because and then they play, and of course they're amazing, but it's just again, kind of a unique aspect of the festival.
You get to see behind the curtain a little bit.
Yeah.
And so what you're referencing is the Song Academy.
Yeah.
The Americana Song Academy that we have at Caldera. And so we have, 9 teaching artists that will come in for 3 or 4 days, 3.5 days beforehand. They spend a week in this gorgeous place. In community with 75 aspiring songwriter musicians who get to come out and hang out with these people, and there's delicious, nutritious food, whatever. They swim in the lake. It's just really great. And so yeah, they bond at that event.
Oh, they're fired up.
And it
you can
carries
tell.
over.
Right, it carries over.
It does. And
Yeah.
that's, people at times have said, well, maybe we don't need to do Song Academy. It's a lot. And it's like, no, it really sets
yeah.
the table
Right.
for this special experience that happens at the festival.
Yeah, you can tell the artists, like I said, they're jazz. They appreciate it. They're doing everything around their craft. They're teaching it. They're talking to people about it. They're actually performing.
Yeah.
So I always try to single that one in particular out.
No, that's pretty great. And we've got this, that's happening this year. We're going to have Songwriter in the Round Friday night at the Belfry. And that's, it's like you're in on their creative process and they're kind of, talking to each other and also talking to the audience. But it's a very cool event.
So run us, I know it's a lot, but maybe try to run us through all the things that you're doing associated with SFF.
Yeah, so we rebranded. It's been just a little over a year because our name was Sisters Folk Festival, Inc. That was the name of the organization. But, from day one, I felt this is something we need to address because people don't know. I would get the question a lot, what do you do the rest of the year when you're not planning the festival? And it's like, oh, well, that's a problem. So we did a lot of consulting with people, stakeholders, people inside the organization, board members, marketing people. And, we threw out the idea of we could just have some name that's completely different than this. But everyone was so familiar with SFF. And so we just, we said, how about SFF Presents? And that it seems to really to work. And so why we did that is because now we're in our third year of the big Pondaroo Festival, which is awesome. And great lineup for that at the end of June coming up. We do a lot of arts and music education outreach in Sisters Public Schools. So we, we support the music programs there with direct funding. I had a scholarship meeting today with our committee. We are getting ready to award $36,000 to graduating seniors at Sisters High School. And
36,000.
36,000.
That is incredible.
Yeah, last year was 20,000, but
that's a great jump too.
it's amazing. We have the Outlaw Strings and the After School Creativity Club at Sisters Middle School. SFF Presents pays for the instruction, pays for the instruments, pays for the all the supplies, and so kids participate at no cost.
Wow.
And so we really like to eliminate financial barriers wherever we can and just sort of level the playing field. So it's not like, oh, well, you're on scholarship, but I could afford to pay. It's just free to everyone.
Yeah.
They don't have to fill out an application or, anything like that. So that is a huge part of what we do. And then we've got the Americana Song Academy. This year we have 11 creativity camps for kids that we're doing. We have a theater camp.
Yeah. Theater.
You know Livy.
Yeah.
So Livy and Jayana are running the theater camp for us. We have several art camps. We have fiddle camp, guitar camp. Joe Schulte's teaching that again. It's actually called Build a Band, so the kids can play any stringed instrument, and then they form their own groups, and they get to pick their band name, and we have a concert at the barn at the end, and it's just very cool. So, kids' education and exposing them to the arts is very important to us. Right before the Folk Festival, on the Friday before, we take... last year, I think we took 5 or 6 bands into all 3 schools, and they do a performance assembly. So kids that, don't get to go to the folk festival, they get to see the bands.
Yeah, that's so great.
And it's
really
fun.
It's stuff like that gets why the Sisters community is just so woven into that programmatic approach to just keeping everybody involved. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yep. And now we have the Kid Zone that's Saturday of Folk Festival, open to anybody. You don't have to have a festival ticket. We have performers on the stage. We have kids arts and crafts. We're going to have the new children's museum that isn't yet open, but they have a mobile display. And they're going to come back again. And so, we just really try and involve different aspects of the community. We don't we're hoping that Smokey Bear is still alive and well, but we don't.
I know.
I think he's maybe been fired. We
Yeah,
don't know.
we could do a whole podcast
Yeah.
on flexing around smoke in the summer, and
Yeah.
I'm convinced that there is an apex to it, and that we have achieved it, and that now how much forest can burn?
Don't ask.
I know, right? I know. I was tempted to have someone do an overlay map for me, like what's left? Have we reached
Right.
what's left?
I
And
know you go hiking, and it's just like, wow, I bet that used to be really pretty, and now it's a lot
Yeah,
standing
no.
dead trees and.
yeah,
I don't
there's
know.
we just canceled a mountain bike ride, at least mentally canceled it, because we were going to a place that we used to always go to around Oak Ridge, and someone was like, it burned, and I was like, oh well, strike that.
Yeah, that's really
You know,
too bad.
but that's a thing.
Yeah.
But I again will share your concern. We've started booking our festivals, or looking at like smaller indoor alternatives should we have to move, and what that looks like. And
Yeah.
it's a weird kind of planning, because it's nothing we've done previously, but like our theater in the park, we've got a school booked now, and it can't take as many, so we'll have to do some kind of lottery. And but it's a reality of Plan B that I would rather not have to add to the long list of things we're doing around
Yeah,
our
no
existing
kidding.
events. You know,
And our plan B was moving the festival date back 3 weeks. We always used to be the weekend
Yeah.
of Labor Day.
right?
And, knock on wood, it has been gorgeous weather.
Yeah,
The
you're a
first-
little out. You're outside that now.
We are. I mean, it's still
I
end
feel.
of September, and
Yeah.
and so far so good. There's usually that like week of rain in
Yeah.
between Labor Day and October, and then the weather like gets beautiful again.
Right,
And so,
right.
yeah, we've been really lucky.
And are you doing any winter concerts? Did you?
Yeah, we
Yep,
do.
You do that
we're
as
doing
well.
Shows at the Belfry.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have one next week. The Pears, they were at the festival. It's a trio. Go
Yeah.
figure. And so we have just a few tickets left for that. But, yeah.
Where do you find the inspiration to keep? I mean, it's been 2019. You went through the pandemic and the smoke, and here we come on another season. How do you recharge your battery? What keeps you going?
Well, I love music, so that helps.
Yeah.
I mean, if you love what you do, it's not work.
Right.
And so I feel really, really lucky
Yeah.
that this is my job and I get to work with great people. We have a wonderful staff of six of us.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so it's great. And really the events, while exhausting, that's where the magic happens, and that's when you see people just walking around with these smiles on their faces,
Yeah.
and they're, and you go, well, we did this,
Yeah.
this. So I don't know. Most people don't really get to see the tangible
Yeah.
element that the product of their work brings
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
world.
I mean this as a compliment. I hope it comes off as a compliment. Never a good way to start a sentence.
Right.
But when I go to the Sisters Folk Festival, I mean, a lot has changed in Bend. Bend's grown so much, and the festivals have adapted to the larger number of people, and things have changed. We now have the amphitheater. It's just it increased. But when I go to Sisters Folk Festival, I still get that old Bend vibe. I mean, I've been here for 35 years, going to these various things, and there's just something that there's so many people that move to Bend, but you go to the Sisters Folk Festival and you have. I don't know how to quantify what that old Bend Sisters experience is, but there's a real, a lot of the people, and not that's kind of a cliche, but it's also just that feeling that everybody's pretty collegial. They're, it's very easygoing. There's not a lot of hype. There's not a lot of, certainly not a lot of social media influencer types
Right.
floating around. It's an authentic group of people who love that kind of music, and also love that kind of vibe, who are coming to it. And it's something I don't experience at a lot of Bend events, but I still get it at the Sisters Folk Festival.
That's a great compliment.
Yeah. Okay. It came off right then.
It did.
I didn't want it to
did.
be old and stuffy, but it's
folky.
it is. It's a folk festival, and and Bend forever in Central Oregon was dominated by, bluegrass and just people were very innovative in the form. And I really, really relish it.
Well, and if I could take just a moment to dispel rumors about what kind of music or maybe not rumors, preconceived notions about what kind of music we present. What you were talking about with the singer-songwriters on the stage, there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
But, we had a heavy metal band from Mexico last year. We had a blues band from Morocco 2 years ago, Blues. They were phenomenal. They blew my mind. You just don't know what kind of music you're going to see there. And so far, we've got 7 international acts booked this year. Yeah. And it's not, throw away whatever you think folk music is and just open your mind to it's great music that connects with people. Yeah. And Brad Tisdale does a great job of putting that lineup together. Sure. And I think that's a big part of, creating that vibe that you're talking about. Yeah.
Well, the Bob Dylan movie's out, so there's a whole nother, probably going to be very beneficial for
It's our
you.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? reboot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that and the fact that, it's interesting. It's kind of a recession-proof business because, people still need a diversion. Right. And, if you can't afford to go to Europe for this, for a big vacation, well, you can still go to the folk festival.
Yeah, we're tariff-free.
That's
tariff-free.
I'm going to steal that.
That's right. Yeah. We're not. The only thing we're importing is musicians, and they're mostly from the United States.
We're advising them to get their visas early this year.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Well, Crista, we're at the end of our time. Is there anything that I skipped over that you'd like readers, listeners to know about?
I think that it's just that if you've always thought you didn't like folk music, go to our website, look at the lineup, listen to those artists, or just download the playlist on Spotify. On that streaming channel, and and check it out. And I think you'll like it a lot. And thank you, Crux. I love you guys.
Yeah, thank you. I would also add that it does sell out. A lot of you want to look at the lineup early, and I would say if something appeals to you, then get your tickets.
We have a new poster artist this year.
You do?
Yeah, Sheila Dunn, who does a lot of art for Ben Sider, sponsor.
Well, that is
you'll have to check it out.
That is a huge change.
It is. Dennis retired.
Yeah, he did.
Mm-hmm.
I have one of your posters, his posters up in my house because they're so great. The way he's done I'm sure there'll be a retrospective show of it, but the integration of the animals with music and just awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. This has been Crista Munro with the SFF.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm helping your branding. And if you like what you heard, go to our website, bensource.com, and become a member. Those member funds help support doing cool things like this and talking to people like Crista, and definitely keep me entertained. So
thanks.
Thank you. You've been listening to the Bend Don't Break podcast, powered by The Source Weekly. To read, hear, and see more of what we do, go to bensource.com.